Hey, what's up? It's Matt. We're back with another episode of MPTV. This time we are in Arizona. We're talking with Dan that has 2 melting pot franchises. Dan, what's going on?
Oh, not much. Just enjoying the weather.
I hear you there.
Yeah.
So
glad to have you out.
So I appreciate it. I can't wait to have dinner tonight.
Yeah.
So talk to me, I guess tell us about yourself, about your background, and how you got in the restaurant business.
So started as a bartender at Melting Pot, and then worked my way up, was assistant manager, became general manager, then moved to Chicago to be an operating partner. That deal fell apart, learned a lot about development and the legal side of things. Was on my way back to New York where I grew up and got a call to go be the general manager of the then highest volume store.
Okay.
So worked there for 2 years, increased their profitability about 40% in the 2 years I was there. And then from there ended up looking at my own opportunities and was looking at Texas, Arizona, and California, and came to Arizona the week before the first Super Bowl in 1996 and fell in love with this beautiful weather.
Yeah. And now you've got 2 locations.
Yeah, so developed one, ended up going into some other business opportunities, developed the second one, and then it took a few years to develop the third one. In the midst, we've sort of redesigned our focus and gotten down to 2 stores.
Okay. So going from bartender, I mean, you don't hear that a lot, but you went from bartender to every step of the way up to owner. What are some of the biggest things you've pulled from that experience? I mean, because I'm sure you can walk in your own facility and see what your employees are doing, and you've done that job, and there's not a lot of operators that can probably say at that level.
Yeah, so it was kind of opportunity that happened due to some shifts in the management in that specific store, and I just was the one who was willing to do the job. So it really was, the grunt work, the 14-hour days, the 6 days a week, hey, come on in and do inventory. Hey, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And through that, just ended up working my way up through the company.
What's one of the biggest elements you've brought with you that you, as an owner right now, that you look back on? That
for me, it's hands-on. So it's really being willing to do any job. So even in a newer concept that I'm involved with called BKDs, we had some management turnover, and there was about 6 months that I actually worked 3 to 4 shifts a week as the closing manager. And there were days that servers didn't show up and days that dishwashers didn't show up, and you just got to do the work. So even having been in the business for, at this point, almost 30 years, you still got to be willing to do every job, and that really makes the difference.
It also makes a difference with the staff, because I've seen it. I've been around a lot of restaurants, a lot of businesses, where the person at the top, I can't get my hands dirty. This is what I do. You do it, and sometimes you got to jump in there, and that shows them.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, lead by example.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I remember, not as a glamorous story, but we had a boat dealership, me, my dad, and brother, and we had opened up a brand new facility, 7-acre store, 13,000 square foot showroom. And I remember one of our employees came in and said, Matt, we got a problem. I'm like, what? The toilet's clogged. I'm like, okay. And he's like, no, the toilet's clogged. You got to see this. And I'm like, I really don't want to. But apparently this guy wouldn't touch it. I'm like, just give me the plunger. And I went, it's something basic.
Yeah.
But it was showing them that, hey, I don't care what I have to do. I would pressure wash the driveway every once in a while. I'd get on a forklift and move a boat. I think that's part of leadership.
Absolutely. Yeah, lead by example for sure.
So one of the questions I've had in my mind for you, because I think you have a very specific good and bad thing with the melting pot, and that your Super Bowl is every visit, because people don't come to the melting pot 10 times a year.
Correct.
Your other brand, BKDs, which we're sitting in right now, they might come here 30 times a year. You don't want to have a bad experience, but odds are, you can have a bad day, and that customer's still going to come back, and they're going to wait it. The melting pot, somebody comes there for their anniversary, their birthday, their mom and dad's birthday or a special occasion, and they might only come once or twice a year. What is that? Is there a difference in training between the two to make people understand that the absolute importance of, hey, this is the one time we're going to see them in 12 months?
So at Melting Pot, we focus on service at both of the concepts, but at Melting Pot, the analogy I always used to use was, even though it's the Tuesday after 4th of July weekend, and you may still be hungover from your boat experience or whatever you did as a server, it's that person's 25th wedding anniversary, and they have that once in their life. So you really have to focus on the guest and not the fact that it's a Tuesday, or it's whatever, it's a slow day and you don't want to be there, or it's 2 days before rent is due, or whatever your personal issue is, you got to look at that every guest is coming in and they may be celebrating their birthday or their 25th wedding anniversary or their graduation or something that is a once in a lifetime experience. So a little different than most places. Being a celebration destination restaurant, you always have to be sort of top of your game, especially on the management side, because that flows down to the service staff, ultimately to the customer.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because like a buddy of mine told me he got out of the wedding photography business. Great photographer, loves doing it. He's like, but Matt, after so many years, the stress of you can't mess up a wedding. He's like, every wedding you got to be perfect. He's like, but you're literally thinking, I can't miss this moment. It's not like I can go, hey, excuse me,
oh,
can you re-kiss
absolutely.
her?
Yes. No, it's a completely different type of hospitality experience than most others. So probably similar to weddings or something where it's a one-time, one-off event, and you have to perform at the highest level. And again, you will get your regulars, and they may be a little bit more lenient on what they're going to allow you to sort of get away with, but certainly not the person who's there for their special occasion.
What has been some of the stuff you've taken from that level of kind of focus from the Melting Pot and gone to your other restaurants?
So really it's kind of reading the guest and understanding kind of what's going on. And again, if it's a casual concept, you probably can get away with a little bit more. If maybe a glass isn't full or there's some dirty dishes on the table for a couple more minutes. If they're watching a game or they're talking with their friends, it may not be that as important as, again, the person that's there on a first date where every second is this awkward moment and anything that doesn't go smoothly can become a big deal. So yeah, it's kind of imparting that, and that's really been the difference, I think, in the success of some of these other things, is that when you treat people with that sort of extra touch, that extra special, like, hey, oh, let me take care of that with you, or, oh, I noticed that took a little while, let me bring you, a free dessert, or let me take care of your next drink, or, hey, you've been in 3 times this week, let me buy you a round of shots. Those are the things that people really go, oh my gosh, they don't do that at my other place that I go to. So really making them sort of brand ambassadors. And again, that's a little more difficult at Melting Pot because they come so few times.
Yeah.
So you have to make such a big impact at Melting Pot as opposed to other concepts where it's the little things that can, add up. Where at Melting Pot, it's this big experience and you have to make sure it's a big experience in order for them to give you sort of any accolades because they already expect that from you.
Yeah.
So they already expect their birthday party is going to be fun.
Yeah, exactly. Do you find it's harder to find employees? I mean, every restaurant's got its standards of what you hire for certain positions. Do you find it's harder at a place like Melting Pot to find employees that fit the bill?
It is, and most specifically because it's less about the actual service and it is about the attitude of the person. So again, they're more like guiding the person through the experience, and although there's some tableside service and some tableside food preparation that the servers do, they don't take as many tables as you would in a traditional restaurant. So I've had extremely competent servers from high-end steakhouses that can't do it because of the amount of time they have to spend with this guest. They actually have to interact with them and talk to them. So it's more about sales, sort of like more of a sales type of personality.
Like a concierge almost.
Correct. Not an overselling, but yeah, somebody who wants to make sure the person is having a good time as opposed to, oh, I'm going to recommend the Dom or the Camus or the, tomahawk steak because that's expensive and I'm going to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
So
the one thing I've noticed too, I was talking to a buddy about this the other day, we were talking about car shopping, is that the 2 things I've been experienced with before is buying high-end cars at a car dealership and steaks at a steakhouse. And I've had experiences where the person that's my server at that steakhouse, like you would think they're a billionaire. Like just the way they kind of act.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, hey, just because I'm in a high-end steakhouse, like doesn't mean like you're the millionaire here. And I think sometimes that's a struggle. I've seen it at car dealerships. I guess we call it the hoity-toity attitude. That sometimes that they don't really get down on the customer's level. They put themselves on a pedestal.
No, absolutely, and that always is something you don't want to have your guest feel. So you have to make sure that they're approachable, they're able to describe the products on the menu, whether it's high end or not high end, and ultimately give the guests the experience that they want. Because the budget is sometimes as important as the experience, and I've seen that where you have somebody who oversells people on a constant basis, and you'll see it in customer reviews where it's like, oh, well, it was a really good time, but we spent $350 and, it wasn't quite what we expected. Well, the fact that you said it was $350 means you probably spent more than you should have. And sometimes that's the guest's fault, but a lot of times it's the server's fault. And that extra $50 in 2 or 3 cocktails would have made the difference between them having the most fantastic time and them being like, oh, I spent $350 and it wasn't that great for $350.
Yeah, it's always compared to something.
Correct.
What is something, I'm assuming you eat out, you visit other concepts, what's something that you see restaurants consistently, I don't want to say fail, but kind of miss opportunity on?
It's probably just simple customer service. I mean, you can go to somewhere that has good service or great service in the sense of everything comes on time and whatever, but you haven't connected with them. So I've had great experiences at places, a local Mexican restaurant where you're drinking $5 margaritas and, having a taco plate for $15. And I've had, bad experience, and not bad, but not great experiences at, $200, $300 a person steak or seafood restaurants. So it's really about the interaction with the staff, the server, that's going to make me go back to any place.
I mean, it's relationships. Okay, break time. Restaurant owners, you're watching MPTV, so you're obviously interested in increasing your sales and profits. But what if I told you could eliminate the hope and pray out of your marketing? You could spend money and actually see results. Most marketing starts with attention, like a billboard. The problem is that attention leads nowhere. That's why we created the ROI Engine restaurant program. We take attention and gain huge engagement, whether it's in-store or online. We help you build a database with deep customer information that's comprised of email, cell phone, and birthday. And then we drive them into the restaurant with trackable results. Yes, results you can actually see. If you're interested and want to have a conversation, check out restaurantmarketingthatworks.com. Worst case scenario, you get a lot of great ideas. Now back to the show.
Correct.
Like we eat out a lot. Me and my wife, we always joke our kitchen divorced us because we don't use it very much. And the places we go back to are typically places that we either never get bad service and we love the food, which we have a restaurant like that, or places that the food's good, but the service is great. You walk in, they know you, they know your family, they talk to you, they interact with you differently.
Absolutely.
What about something I don't see much in a lot of restaurants and is table touches by the managers? That to me, like I was at a restaurant yesterday and I watched the owner. I didn't know it was the owner at first, and I watched him. Table, taking drinks, doing stuff, but he was a consummate pro. And I've been at other restaurants where you could have to have a fire in your table for a manager to walk out and ask anything.
So we really focus on high touch in all of our concepts by management. So as I was saying earlier about being willing to do any job, that includes running drinks, running food, talking to the guests, but ultimately you want to know, and especially a melting pot, they're there for an hour and a half to 2 hours. You want to get to know them. They don't come very often, maybe twice a year. So you really want to get to know them on the level where they're going to go, wow, that person was really nice to me. I want to spend my next birthday there. I want to spend Valentine's there. Because again, having so few of these every year, let's say there's 6 opportunities at Melting Pot, and you're competing against 20 other restaurants. In order to capture even one of them, you have to do something better than them on probably more than one level. So
I can see that. That's one thing I've thought about when I was thinking about interviewing you and talking about this, is that most restaurants, like there's a restaurant back home I go to, I enjoy, that I'll go there for anniversaries and birthdays, but also I'll go there for casual dinners and nights with friends. But then there's other places that you go there for one time. And you think about how impactful that experience is, and having all hands on deck and being willing to do anything. And it's like the restaurant I saw yesterday. I watched the owner before I knew he was the owner. I could put two and two together, but I saw him taking drinks. I saw him wiping the table down. I saw him shaking hands, kissing babies. I saw him the shoulder pat and talking to customers. And you can tell restaurants like that those people come back over and over and over because they see that one-on-one service.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, that to me makes all the difference in whether it's me going out or me going to a place. Is the interaction between the staff, including the management and or ownership if they happen to be on site, and the guests and the rest of the guests. And not to the point where, because I've been to some places where that's fantastic for 75% of the people or 50% of the people who are there once a week or twice a month. And you come once a quarter and they don't know who you are, and you're like, wait a minute, I'm right here, and like, why does my drink take 4 times longer than this person? Oh, I get it, because Bob's your buddy and golfs with you and whatever. So there is a fine line there of making sure that you treat every person similarly. So some people don't want to interact, they don't want to talk to you, that's fine. Quick, hey, how's it going, table touch, and you're out. Other ones, you may know them and they may want to talk about where you just went skiing. So
restaurant owners, did you know Matt has free online marketing courses that teach you how to successfully market your restaurant? Email support@mattplapp.com to get access to the courses and a free social media content calendar.
Okay, so great transition. Speaking of skiing, so we were talking about that earlier. We both like snow skiing. I always ask people at the end of the episode, especially with restaurateurs, I see a lot of restaurateurs that can't escape the madness. And one of my clients one time told me, he's like, you got to hit the airplane mode. You got to have that button of what you do to get out of the 4 walls, get your mind right, be with your family, do something for yourself. What do you do to hit airplane mode? What do you do to get out of here?
It's interesting. I was just skiing, as I've told you, and so we're eating at a sushi restaurant in Deer Valley that we go to at least once every year that we go there. Yep. This year we did twice in 3 nights. So that tells you how much we like it. And ironically enough, the server the first night, we were interacting with her so much as she was interacting with us, and she loves to hike, and we're talking about Arizona, never been, and where she should hike and where she should come. So the second night, she actually got off her shift. She wasn't our server because she had a different section, and sat down with us and proceeded to finish about the last 15 or 20 minutes of our meal with us. And we were talking exactly about this. And I said to her, well, ironically enough, travel is my drug of choice. So it doesn't matter if it's skiing, scuba diving, hiking through the jungle, wine tasting in Napa, whatever it happens to be, that to me is why I do all the rest of it, is to be able to say, okay, for the next 6 days, for the next 10 days, for the next 3 days, I'm going to do some work. I'm going to make sure I'm, still accessible and in contact with my teams. But, you're only going to get, a little bit, but that's it. So
I was in, when was that? I guess it was 2 years ago. I was in Cozumel, and I'm down by the ocean. I'm on my iPad, and the guy walks out, and we're in a little private resort, all inclusive. And he goes, "I hope you're not working." I said, "Why?" And he goes, "Oh, this is vacation. You shouldn't be working." I said, "Oh, I'm getting about an hour work in with some coffee before the wife and kids get up." I said, "But let me ask you a question." I said, "I went on 24 trips this year. Some of them for 2 days, some for 7, 8 days." I said, "I went on a lot of vacations this year. How many did you go on this year?" He's like, 1 or 2. I'm like, exactly, yeah. If I was you going on a week vacation, I'm going to unplug. Me, I'm the same way. I love travel. I mean, I've been 7 or 8 places in the past 2 months, and some of it's business, some's pleasure. But what I've found is the more I travel, the more my mind's right. And if I can get an hour of work done 3-4 days in a row, but be on a mountain 10 hours a day, it makes everything go away.
Absolutely.
Well, cool. I appreciate our conversation.
Awesome.
Thank you, sir.
Pleasure.
That's all we've got for this episode of MPTV. When you're in Arizona next time, Melting Pot, hop in there. Don't go for a special occasion. Go because you're here, and your special occasion is to see Dan and his team. We'll see you next time.